Motion to approve the consent agenda?
Right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. We can take a vote. Mr. Todd?
Aye.
Mr. Kenyon?
Aye.
Mr. Cirincione?
Aye.
Ms. Zimmerman?
Aye.
I'm also an aye. We will show that that passed 5-0. And we can move on to item 3.1. The board may vote to convene an executive session pursuant to ARS 38-431.03 A3 and 4 to receive legal advice from the attorneys for the district regarding the intergovernmental agreement between Litchfield Elementary School District number 79 and Liberty Elementary School District number 25 for alternative and special education services, and to instruct its attorneys regarding the negotiation and implementation of the IGA.
Madam President, I make a motion to convene an executive session pursuant to ARS 38-431.03 A3 and 4 to receive legal advice from the attorneys for the district regarding the intergovernmental agreement, the IGA, between Litchfield Elementary School District number 79 and Liberty Elementary School District number 25 for alternative and special education services, and to instruct its attorneys regarding the negotiation and implementation of the IGA.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second?
All right, we have a motion and a second. We will vote. Mr. Todd?
Aye.
Mr. Kenyon?
Aye.
Mr. Cirincione?
Aye.
Ms. Zimmerman?
Aye.
I'm also an aye. We'll show that passed 5-0, and we are moving into executive session at 5:35 p.m. All right, we are reconvening our special meeting at 7:16 p.m. And agenda item 3.3, possible action to instruct the attorney to proceed as directed in executive session on legal advice.
Make a motion to approve the direction given to the governing board's attorney during the executive session.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. We can take a vote. Excuse me. Mr. Todd?
Aye.
Mr. Kenyon?
Aye.
Mr. Cirincione?
Aye.
Ms. Zimmerman?
Aye.
I'm also an aye. We'll show that pass 5-0. Moving on to agenda item 3.4, discussion and possible action to approve the migration of the district telephone system from Cisco Unified Communications Manager to Cisco WebEx calling utilizing the 1GPA cooperative purchasing contract. Mr. Mann, this is your agenda item.
Good evening, President Schmidt, governing board members. So today I'm just here to talk about our phone system in the district. Our phone system runs on aging servers that live in our buildings, and those servers are due for a replacement. Instead of buying more old technology, we're asking to move our phone service to Cisco Cloud. Same phones, same numbers, better 911 safety. The cost would be about $150,000 divided up into 3 installments for the next 3 years, about $50,000 a year. Let's see. So I wanted to explain the proposed upgrade to the district's telephone system in plain terms and ask the board's approval to move forward. Our technology partners, A&M, have already done the engineering homework, a full assessment and a detailed statement of work that you have attached there. Using our existing cooperative purchasing agreement, which means the pricing was competitively solicited. So today we run about 600 phones in our district across our 8 campuses and district office, transportation and maintenance. The brains of that system are in servers that sit in our buildings. We own them, we maintain them, we upgrade them. We pay for a maintenance contract every year, and we have to run separate equipment just to stay compliant with 911 rules. Everything works, but the hardware is aging, and it's all our responsibility. So what we're proposing, we're proposing to move the brains of the system to the Cisco Cloud. The phones on desks mostly stay. Every phone number stays the same. Our paging system stays integrated. Cisco keeps the software current and automatic. We'd migrate one campus at a time, so no school district would be, or no school would be disrupted. Training for staff would also be included. Why it's better. So 4 reasons. First, safety. When anyone dials 911, the responders get the exact building and location. Our staff are automatically alerted at the same time, and this meets both federal 911 laws, Carey's Law, and Ray Baum's Act out of the box. Second, reliability. Cisco runs the infrastructure and patches it automatically. Third, it's simpler for our small IT team to manage. Fourth, continuity, because this service lives in the cloud. A problem in one building doesn't take our whole phone system down. So the money slide. The implementation cost over the next 3 years would be about $150,000 to move over. If we keep things the same, we're looking at a $70,000 to $80,000 server refresh rate. The price of servers have gone up about 300% in the last year or two. So that's it. Also, we have a $8,000 annual Cisco SmartNet maintenance fee that we pay, and $25,000 in future CUCM upgrade projects. So the alternatives for us to consider here, option one, maintaining our existing CUCM where we have this on-site servers. Option two, migrate to the Cisco WebEx calling, which we recommend. Strategic priority and goal alignment. This project supports the district strategic plan, priority 3, effective systems, safety, and resources, modernizing technology infrastructure, improving operational efficiency, enhancing school safety, supporting reliable communications, reducing long-term operational costs, and improving business continuity. And there's a possible what administration recommends for a motion. And we brought our partner from A&M, Jared, here. And we have Rob, our senior network administrator, and myself to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Questions from board members?
Madam President, for me.
Yes, please.
Thanks for the presentation. My question would come down to that fiscal impact summary. If you want to pull that back up. Okay. So you said it's gonna be $150,000 over how many years?
The next 3 years.
Okay. And then it says the cost avoided, it comes out to like 113,000. So after those 3 years, are we going to have like another $8,000 annual after those 3 years?
So right now, we pay about almost $40,000. Sorry, for the current service for the licenses across the district every year. So this $150,000 divided up in the next 3 years, but then we would have to pay, maybe it's 40, maybe it's 50. We don't know because of, the prices, inflation, those sort of things. All the phone systems work on this model though.
Okay. So it's kind of a wash on some of the stuff, right? Like the 8,000 annual, because we have maintenance fees for the other one annually also.
Yeah. Yes, sir. The advantage though is that we don't host the servers. It's in the cloud.
That was good. Like if one school goes down, all the schools, that's really important. One other question I had was, you're talking about the project of the scope. I think it was like 2 slides up. What are the 300 shared workspace devices?
So shared workspace devices are, so telephones are sometimes attached to people and sometimes they're attached to a position. So if it's attached to like, at the front office, the secretary or whatever, it's like a lot of different folks use that. So that would be their Cisco's definition. And the agreement that we would enter into allows us to, we have those 600 devices. And then if we open a new school or something like that, we would, allows us up to 300 workspace phones. So we have like a 15% growth if we needed them.
So there is a cap on how many phones?
There is a cap.
Thank you.
Other
Ms. Schmidt?
questions? Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Mann, is there, are we in a current contract that we would need to pay to get out of in order to enter into this new contract?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Madam President,
Please go ahead.
just a couple of questions. One, you say it's a one-time cost, but in technology, nothing's a one-time cost. So, let's be honest, and we pay this out over 3 years. In 3 years, they come into us again for another $150,000. In the meantime, as we're paying this, do we get the situation of, oh, your subscriber gear, i.e. your handsets no longer are compatible with the system, or we've come out with new handsets and now you have to get this upgraded system. So I'm a little concerned when you say a one-time cost. I don't think that's really accurate because there's going to be more costs with this always.
Yeah, and I do apologize about that. That your statement is close to the truth there. It's a cost of $150,000 to get us going, and get all the equipment that needs to be in place. But yes, we're every year, it might be $45,000 a year. It might be 50. It depends on Cisco's pricing.
Right. And
Yes.
then we're locked into that.
Well,
So
I don't know if we're locked into that, sir.
well, we are if we want to keep that system, we pay those prices or we're back out again.
Yeah. One more thing that you said, sir, about the phones. One of the reasons that this was attractive for us to do is most of the phones in the district are already at that upgrade level where we don't have to buy new phones.
Right. So what's the 150,000 for cloud space? Because you said most everything's going to just carry over. So what exactly is that 100? And then you said it's to buy equipment. So I'm confused.
So the licenses associated with it. Jared, do you want to speak to that a little bit?
So yeah, the way the phone systems work, and I guess I could say standing up. The way the phone systems work is there's a subscription model based on the users. So like the user count for Liberty Elementary is 600 users. Those common space licenses he mentioned, those are meant to be then covering any other phones that are just out, not dedicated to users. So say maybe in a bus barn or something where just anybody can go up and use it, right? They give you half of whatever your user count license for those sorts of things, which is more than any school district would ever need for those licenses. Those are just included in there. That subscription would be there regardless of whether you stayed with the Cisco on-prem. Like there's a subscription cost for users regardless, the cloud one or on-prem. And even if you changed other phone systems we see some districts using across the state, or Microsoft Teams, Zoom, Fortinet, all of those models, they might be different the price wise and have better features, worse features depending on the system, but they all follow the same model where there's a subscription cost per user, and then there can be hardware costs depending on what's needed, right? And that would be when Lane was mentioning the attractiveness of this. You guys are already using Cisco, so you have all those phones. All but 13 of the phones in the district are able to go to this cloud calling setup without needing to be replaced. If we looked at other options when we were considering this, because we work with other manufacturers besides Cisco at A&M, and the cost because of doing new handsets, we'd have to do new handsets if we went to Microsoft, or you wouldn't necessarily have to, but you'd have to maybe go to soft clients. You do have a choice, right, where you could have your teachers or administrators use a soft client on their laptops or on their cell phones instead of getting a phone. But the reality is we see most districts still need to have a phone in every classroom for 911 reasons. So that was going to be a cost that would have made this project a bit more expensive. The existing agreement, someone had asked, you guys are on this subscription model right now for the on-prem system. It was like $39,000 per year for 5 years, because you guys did a 5-year subscription on that on the last one. So there's been, we're up to 48,000. So that shows you the amount of, I guess, inflation that's happened since licensing was bought in, I guess that would have been 2021 versus 2026 now. And in the future, to your question, yes, this subscription model would be when this 3 years is up, you would need to do another subscription either with Cisco or with another manufacturer, and that's going to kind of follow the same model. I'm sure there'll be probably some inflation between now and then. That's why we do see some districts even going a little bit. You guys have a 3-year is what is proposed here. You can even do 5-year, but that locks you in. There is non-appropriations clauses in this contract too. So if there were financial reasons that the district needed to get out of this, you do have that entitlement in there. So there is a little bit of protection to get out there. So I don't know if that helped or if there's other questions on it.
No, it helps. I just, as technology is evolving, what else is this system going to do for us other than just the phones? For example, I know Zoom has the conference calling features. It also works with people's cell phones.
Yeah.
So
And
is
this,
that all coming with this plan, or is this just basically landlines.
So you do have the ability, every user in the district can have up to 10 devices that could ring with their work or their work number. So if you wanted to put the WebEx application on your personal phone, or if the district gives you a phone, you can have it on there and you could take calls as if you were at your desk, that
Okay.
the parent or the person in the community wouldn't know it was actually being taken on your cell phone. You could have that on your iPad, your laptop. Again, they picked 10 devices just because that's more than I think any user would ever need, right? So they wanted to make sure you're covered there. So you have that ability. We don't have conferencing to do. WebEx does have a conferencing like a Zoom or like a Google Meets, but I believe the district already was using Google, I think, or something else, right? So you guys already had something else, and that would have had an additional cost to it. So we didn't really consider that because you had that. It does have Cisco manages E911. Lane had mentioned that through their system. It's a product called Red Sky that's included. That is a very enhanced 911 protection versus what you have right now. With the on-prem solution, it's basically Lane's team's responsibility to keep track of where all of these phones sit at the district. And so if 911 was dialed in a certain classroom, they have to keep that database updated.
Right.
Historically, honestly, with a lot of school districts, can get messy because sometimes phones get moved around without permission from IT, right? As teachers maybe move around. This system's all in the cloud, and it's covered by Cisco, and it will give very specific details. If a 911 call came in, it can pinpoint to specific rooms without needing to do the management within the district. So take some liability off, and it does check. There's the Raybaum law and the Carey's law are newer laws that have come into effect due to incidents that have happened in places where the 911 stuff didn't get delivered to the appropriate spot, and bad things happened. Obviously, all of that's covered now without a lot of risk to the district because it's all going to be handled by Cisco in the cloud. So that's a bit of an enhancement too. And then, like Lane had mentioned, the server, the cost to do on-prem, almost every district that stays with Cisco, we're seeing them move to this cloud because of the cost of the hardware. On-prem is getting very expensive. So
I like the cloud solution. I just, has this gone through finance, Mr. Mann, and finance is okay with all of this? And then my other question was, this part of the
Yes.
budget that we've recently approved a budget, were these numbers included in your plan that we approved previously? That should have been in the plan for the budget.
Should have definitely been in the plan for the budget. When we looked at some of the POs that we had written for projects for last year that didn't end up being completed for a number of reasons. We're moving to SD-WAN for our network solutions. So I'm gonna let Miss Anita speak to it for just because we did go over it with business.
Good evening, Madam President, governing board members. Yes, our vendor here showing, I was the one asking questions. Okay, so what's the annual cost after the 3 years are up? So I did spend a lot of time talking with Lane and looking at that. I have been working on, said I was going to audit last year's capital funds as well. So the amount is in the budget. The difference is going to be the 10,000. So we do have money to cover that. And it will be out of capital ongoing. So that would be the impact, right? The 38,000 to the 48,000 a month. So yeah, I'm good with it. So do you have any other questions?
Just a clarification and maybe just all the numbers, I didn't catch it. So it's $150,000 over 3 years, so basically $50,000 a year. But we're currently paying $38,000 a year, so it's not going to be $50,000 and then an additional cost on top of that. It's just going to be the $50,000 per year for the subscription. That's correct. Am I right there? Okay, and then just for our own clarification purposes, again. It said for future costs avoided was $70,000 to $80,000 for server replacements. how often would the servers need to be replaced as well? Because I think that's something, it's a one-time cost to replace them, but they continually have to be replaced. So what's the cadence on replacing servers?
So, yeah.
So typically we see most of the life cycles on servers be about 5 years. We'll see some districts maybe, extend that out to 7 or so. So that's the 70 or 80,000. That $8,000 number he had on that typically any server provider, your guys are Cisco, but HP, Dell, all of them make them. They have a support cost per year. That was the 8,000, and that's where if the server broke, you would be entitled to next day replacement, or if these guys are having problems troubleshooting an issue and they can't figure it out, they would be able to get support from them. So those are the two costs. The other cost that happens that will be avoided in the new system is historically with on-prem solutions, it's a little bit complex upgrading because all of these manufacturers come out with new software to fix security bugs, add features, those sorts of things. Those typically require school districts to outsource to somebody like us or one of our competitors to do that upgrade. Those, depending on how complex, because a lot of districts won't upgrade until they're forced to, right? Because the Cisco will say, hey, this is end of life, so you can't run it anymore, and they're forced to do it. At that point, those could be up to $20,000 or $30,000 one-time cost just to do the support upgrades from a vendor like us. That goes away completely because now in the cloud, Cisco is just managing that. All these guys have to do is go in there and pick the time of day, picking a Sunday or some time that would be non-disruptive to allow those upgrades, but they won't need somebody like us to do that. And I would say that's a cost that probably happens every 3-ish years probably too. So, that would be just, I'd say a rough estimate would be like $20,000 probably for something like that. Every 3 years that'll be avoided, as well as the server cost and support. So I think that's what that total number that was on there was, all of those components.
Got it. Thank you.
Madam President, one more question.
Yep. Go ahead.
So on here, you're asking us to approve the purchasing contract. Is what you're calling this A&M statement of work, you're calling that the contract? Because I don't see the actual contract on here.
So the contract we're using is the one GPA contract. It's one of the ones that's approved by your procurement team. We have several contracts that we can use, but that's the one that we've used with a lot of the projects we've done with you guys. That scope of work you see from us, that's the services related to helping with the migration from the on-prem to get you to the cloud. So that's a one-time cost. Again, once we get you guys onto that cloud service from there, you won't need those sorts of services. There may be things that you need help on that come up from time to time, but it would be unlikely that that would be anything more than like hourly kind of rates that you guys would call us for issues. But that, that's the whole goal of going to the cloud, is that really the heavy lifting of kind of maintaining the system is done by Cisco now. So,
Madam President,
Go ahead.
how long we have an aging system now? If our system was to fail tonight, right this second, how long would it take to deploy the new system?
do you have spare servers? Yeah.
No,
I mean,
I'm talking about moving it to the cloud. If our current servers failed and we had to move it to the cloud tonight, how long would it take you guys to do that?
I mean, we could start on it right away, but that would definitely take probably a few business days, I would guess. Probably.
No, that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's a good point too. Is there is you guys have a setup, and that would maintain in the cloud too. It's called SRST, which is survivability something or other. But basically, what happens is if the system goes down, it'll at least keep a couple of active lines at each school so that they can, in the old school kind of analog way, would still have lines open to be able to call for emergency things like that. So if it was down, you wouldn't be able to do calls everywhere, but at least at like the main office, they would be able to keep calls during.
That was my next question. So we still will keep those proverbial copper lines for if the internet's out or whatever. I know it's the SRST thing, but okay.
Correct. We will still maintain those just in case of an emergency like that. If the internet goes down, we still will have those pot lines available for that.
So my only thoughts with this is, as we talk about this money, the servers are not broke yet. I do think going to the cloud is the future. And as a matter of fact, I remember when this current phone system was being discussed and we kept saying, go to the cloud, and previous IT folks wanted to hold everything on servers here, but
The cost wasn't quite
yeah,
like
right.
it is now.
But future, here we are now. So you pay me now or you pay me more later. That seems how that is. I'm a little concerned with our budgets, where they're at, what this looks like to go out and say we have a working phone system. We're looking maybe at an override. We currently have one on the table. I don't know what'll happen later tonight. And then spending 150,000 on this now versus writing out the servers until if something happens. But we talk about, I mean, heck, I got an old Apple IIe computer in my house that's still running. That thing's been gone for years. There's a whole group of people who keep these. So I just think the board needs to consider, is this the right time to spend that money, or can we get by for another year and see if we have an override, if it passes, if it doesn't, where we're at, because I realize we can get out of the system if we have a financial problem, but we can't just get out of it because we have no place to go. We're gonna then have to go buy servers or do something different. So it's not as simple as just getting out. I just put that out there for discussion for the board, and be curious what everybody else thinks about that approach.
Are we,
Commissioner.
sorry, one second.
Sure, of course.
But I'm not disagreeing. I'm just, to clarify, we would be spending $38,000 no matter what, plus the additional 8 for the server maintenance. So 46, or we can migrate to the cloud and spend 50.
Well, and the thing is, actually, if you decided to not move forward with this project, the existing on-prem solution is on one of these same subscription models, and that expires in, I want to say, the end of August or early September. So we had this quote set to start, and that's why when the person had asked, are we wasting any money, this would transition to start at the end of the current agreement. So if we didn't do it, and you do have the options, like if you didn't want to do this, you can buy like a 1-year term. The prices will actually probably be a little more because Cisco does the longer term, just like anything, right?
Sure.
They give you a little bit better price. So my guess is I don't know that we quoted out for a 1 year. It's something that we could definitely get for them, but I'm going to guess that's probably going to end up being in that same like 50-ish K range per year anyway. But you could do it without necessarily having to be tied to 3 years. But then you are going to have to maintain the support and things on the servers. And we need to check. I don't remember how much life is left on those. I know it's coming towards the end. It probably has a little bit of time. Yeah.
So we would be agreeing to 3 years at $50,000. But if we don't do that and we stay with what we have, we're potentially getting to about that much anyways to stay on the servers that could potentially fail this year because they're getting old, and we know how that works. So it's kind of a wash, is it not? I mean, it's real close. It's not like a large difference. Am I on track financially?
Yes, that's my understanding.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, and that clarifies when you do those numbers. I'm
Yeah,
fine. Okay.
That's just why I have all the numbers written down too, just so I made sure I was getting it right and saying the right things. So, Ms. Zimmerman, do you still have a question?
It's just more of a comment in response to Mr. Todd asking the board to have a discussion. In terms of the override and the impact, whether the board goes for or not, this would not be something the override pays for. So I just want to make sure that that's clear to the public, that when we, it's very specific what the override pays for, and this is not one of those things. So the way that it could impact us in the future is in a whole nother year if the board chose not to go for an override this year or next year, and then we had to phase down and figure out how to pay for what the override currently pays for, then I can see that impact. But initially right now, it's very clear that we have to clearly outline what the override pays for to the voters, and this is not one of those things.
I very well understand that, but when you're going out asking for money to pay for some things, the public might see, well, if you didn't buy a new phone system, you could have put the money towards something else. I think my answers were professionally answered by people previously. I've got what I needed to know. Thank you.
And then I think the only other thing I would add too, if we punted this down a year or something, you don't know for sure, but this past year, you guys have probably seen it as the district too, like the amount of inflation on a lot of aspects of technology has been borderline ridiculous this year. There's excuses because the hyperscaler companies that are running all the AI things like AWS and Microsoft, everybody's buying up all the components that are driving up these costs. So that's just one other thing to consider is if we did punt this a year and kept the current system, it might be $60,000 a year 1 year from now looking at it too. So don't know that for sure, but it's just something else to consider is once you get into this, at least you will be locked for, you know, not having to deal with the inflation of that year over year for the 3 years.
Yep, thank you.
I have one additional question. Would Cisco entertain putting a cap on what the inflation of the cost will be in 3 years? So in 3 years, we're going to have to come up with more because unfortunately, this
Yeah.
is a technology thing where they get you the next
No,
time.
I 100% agree. And the problem is they won't do that. That what they would tell you is, well, you should just do a 5-year right now, and then you'll get this rate for 5 years.
Right.
But then to your point, you're locked in for 5 years, and maybe
I would tell
3
them we'll
years
talk to
from now,
Zoom and see what we'll competitively bid it,
Yeah.
and things could change a lot.
Yeah.
So
And we did look at some of those things. I mean, most of these systems are pretty similar in cost. The ones that are comparable in their capabilities. The big thing that kept circling us back to the WebEx calling Cisco was that you guys had these Cisco phones already, and that, you know, if you decide as a district you're not going to deploy phones and have everybody use a soft phone, then that could change that conversation a little bit. But we don't see many districts abandoning the phones because of the 911 usage. So.
Thank you.
I guess that's what I just wonder is, should we look at that though, of using soft devices or doing something where we're not locked into a single desktop set that is there? Because we pay $150,000 and we think in 3 years they're going to come to us and say, well, you were paying 50, you're going to pay 60. If they come to us and say you're paying 90, we're playing the same game again of, oh, we got to go get new software, we got to go get new devices, new everything, because everything we have. So that's why sometimes I get leery of these contracts, because they get you on the second time around. I think it might be good to take everybody out of the competitively bid public cooperative contract and look at a true RFP and see what people come back with, because then they can get creative and give you a cap in 3 years and say it's this price, and in 3 years the price will not go more than this percentage. And when they realize they have competition, they're looking at others, they might be more willing to get more competitive.
Thank you for your comment, board members. When we looked at this and we looked at prices across, the different providers, they were all very close in price. And I do believe that if we did do something else like that, we would have, we're talking about replacing like over 600 endpoints in the district, which would come at a really high cost.
Well, maybe it would or maybe it wouldn't, because if it's competitively bid, I mean, the cell phone industry gives away very expensive phones all the time because they're not as expensive as they charge to bring you in. And then they tell you, I mean, for example, T-Mobile, get your phone for free and you get guaranteed pricing for 5 years. And so there's a lot with technology and these cooperative contracts with technology that they get you later. We experienced that just a couple of years ago with some insurance stuff. So I personally, I'm not opposed to Cisco, but I do think we should pit the companies against each other and see who's going to give us the best deal, and then who's going to tell us, take the 3-year contract, and in 3 years, we promise you your price isn't go more than 2%, 3%, whatever that is. And when they're on the risk of being thrown out and replaced by a different vendor, they might want to consider that a little bit more.
So yes, sir. One of the reasons that we're going with A&M and Cisco is because they're part of that one GPA, and they are competitively priced. So,
but as I've said many times, the competitive pricing it's not competitively priced. It's public priced. It's just public priced. They can name any price they want, and everybody jumps on that. When you go and put somebody competitive, suddenly I guarantee you that one GPA price is going to drop, because now they're competitive. Now it's not just the competitive pricing has become a avenue to sole source things that shouldn't be sole sourced. You pick your vendor, you find a contract, everybody's on a contract, everybody's on that GPA contract. They publish everybody. Same with Mojave One, same with HGAC, same with Sourcewell. Everybody submits, everybody's published, prices come down all the time. I work in that environment. I respond to those bids all the time. We see this constantly.
I appreciate the feedback. The recommendation is still that we move forward.
Madam President, I have a question.
Go ahead.
First of all, I'd like to ask the audience to quit talking, please. Mr. Lane, what are we looking for as a timeline for implementation? If we were to approve this tonight, when would the entire district be moved over?
Yeah, so we would need to.
I don't think your mic's on. I'm sorry.
There we go. Yeah, we can get started on it pretty quickly. Typically, our process is to do a kickoff to see what works best for the district, right? Because there will be some cutovers, so we'll have to coordinate doing it either on weekends or fall break or night. But the goal would be in Cisco, when you migrate to the cloud, they will honor and allow you to continue to stay with your current on-prem for as long as you need into this, because they understand there's a transition to doing some of this. So you guys will, once you enter into the agreement, you'll be safe on your current system until we get the migration done. So we wouldn't necessarily have we have to have this ready on the expiration date of the current agreement, but we could definitely have it done probably in a matter of a week, probably with some coordination. But again, some districts prefer to cut one school, per week and test and then go to the next school kind of thing. So whatever the comfort level of the district, we can move at that speed, but it shouldn't be a very long drawn out process.
Okay, thank you.
Madam President,
Yes, please.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the migration of the district telephone system from Cisco Unified Communication Manager to Cisco WebEx calling, utilizing the 1GPA cooperative purchase contract.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right. We have a motion and a second. We can take a vote.
I have some questions. Is the contract going to be with Cisco or is it going to be with A&M? Okay. So it's A&M who can help us with pricing in 3 years. They're our vendor. They're the ones. So we can ask them to give us a cap on what it's going to be.
Any other questions or? Okay, then we can take the vote. Mr. Todd,
No.
Mr. Kenyon,
Aye.
Mr. Cirincione,
Aye.
Ms. Zimmerman.
Aye.
I'm also an aye. We will show that passed 4-1. Moving on to agenda item 3.5, discussion approval of employee work calendars for SY 26-27. Dr. Avila.
Madam President, members of the governing board, this evening we have before you the work calendars for the 2026-2027 school year, and we're recommending that you approve as presented, and attached also you will see the red line as well as the clean versions.
Thank you. Questions from the board?
Ms. Schmidt.
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. I had a couple questions, but I just want to point out for the board when we go to make the motion that I'm not sure that the motion can just be work calendars, because at the bottom we are changing the school calendar as well. I guess, my first question, Dr. Avila, is, what led to bring us back these calendars? Because we originally approved these back in February. What are the need that you see for us, for the changes that need to be made?
Madam President, board members Zimmerman, Dr. Doozy will respond to the question.
All right, Madam President, governing board members, the original calendars were brought to the board for approval 3 years ago, and it was most recently that our Ed Services Department identified that the calendars that were approved at that time had some discrepancies between the administrator calendar and the teacher calendar. And so the changes that you saw on the calendar reflected what was on the administrator calendar, and that includes that July 31st workday. Also, during the calendar development process, it was omitted from the version for the teachers, which was a clerical oversight. Yet again, it did come to the board, it was approved, but we just didn't catch that that it was it didn't align to what the administrator calendar was. And then as we finalized calendars for this year, we also discovered there was inconsistency with the district's plan for professional development. And that had to do with the July 31st. And then as well, we looked at the January dates. It was brought to our attention by some teaching staff that there were more days in some month for working days and there weren't days in other months. And so we did identify in January having a work day prior to parent-teacher conferences. And the rationale for that change was that we wanted to allow our leaders to be able to have training and prepare our teachers for those conferences before it was flipped the other way. And so that was an Ed Services. I know there was a question from the board around if we did a stakeholder survey or if we asked other people, and we did not. So if that's something the board does want us to take action on, then we certainly can do that. But we did that based on what we believed was best to make sure that our leaders and our teachers are prepared for parent-teacher conferences in January. I'm happy to
Okay.
take any other questions.
Thank you. While I can understand, certainly that we want our calendars to be aligned, I did have a teacher reach out to me with a concern that we're changing, next Friday, essentially, which is 9 days away, to a work day when the previous calendar that the board did approve, had that day off. And not only is it a work day, but it's also a blackout date. So for people that already, scheduled appointments or things like that, it's just, it just feels hard, I guess, to do to them, although, my feeling is that a lot of teachers probably plan to work that Friday right before school starts. So, I just want to recognize that the board did already approve that as a day off. And so we are changing that with very little notice.
Absolutely. I would agree with that statement. It was on the administrator calendar that was a work day, but you are absolutely correct. It was not on the teacher calendar.
Madam President, for me.
Go ahead.
Dr. Hughes, was that the only, in case I missed it, was that the only change that needed to happen for the teacher work days?
To change any work days, yes, sir.
So the July 31st was the only change?
The only change as far as what teachers believed. And then the swap of parent-teacher conferences, the one in January that I just mentioned, that they're still the same same work days, but we allowed the opportunity to do our days for conferences a different week so that the work day preceded the conferences.
Can I make one more comment?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. And the reason that I asked about whether, you had asked teachers, I guess, about the change in the conferences is because the new conference week has Monday as a holiday. And so I just know a lot of teachers often, don't just use those 2 days for conferences. At least in my experience, they use all the days. And I think, that's great that I guess they're not required to, but, offer a lot of different times for parents to, make themselves available. And so I was just, curious if they had the opportunity to weigh in, if they felt like that was going to make it more difficult to be able to reach all of our families, in a shorter week. But certainly can appreciate, the Ed Services reasoning in, allowing our leadership teams to help teachers get ready for conferences and provide as much, information to our families as possible. So I certainly can see both sides, but that's one of the reasons I asked is because it does fall on a holiday week now, with that Monday being a day off.
Madam President.
Yes, go ahead.
So with this change, kind of sudden change, I guess we would say to the staff, how, if we were to approve this tonight, what would the district, how would that look if staff had already had that day blocked out?
Absolutely. So I believe I just learned the practice at Liberty is that there is a form that staff fill out that their supervisor signs up for if they need that July 31st date off for either a special circumstance, bereavement, and there was one more, there was a third one, sick, if they're ill, then their supervisor can sign off on that blackout day, and then it would come to my desk for signature. So I guess to answer your question in this situation, then we would need to consider that because it was not on the teacher calendar originally.
Yeah, definitely worth considering.
And yeah,
Just-
and we did bring this agenda item last meeting, and right before the last meeting, we found that something was still not accurate. So it's definitely something that I will take full ownership of, that we need to do a better and more efficient job making sure that we provide the board members accurate calendars for all employees so that this does not happen again.
Thank you.
Madam President, if I may.
Go ahead.
I just want to say that I'm not comfortable changing the July 31st date. It's too close for me to expect people to change their plans when they might have been planning on doing something. The other stuff is far enough away, but the 31st is a little close for me.
Ms. Schmidt.
Go ahead.
As I kind of stated, I struggle with the July 31st one. And I just wonder if there's a way for the district kind of to think outside the box, I guess, in terms of, can that be like I don't know what the right word is. Like roving isn't the right word, where essentially, teachers pick a day, an extra Friday, because it's something they're being paid for, where they're going to, either work in their classroom or complete some professional development on their own, and they submit that to the principal so that we honor the time that we promised them off, or if the district feels more comfortable with just moving that Friday in general to a different, that PD to a different Friday. I don't know if Ed Services had planned to do like district-wide PD on that Friday, or that was purely going to be a work day for teachers in their classroom.
Is my understanding that that is a work day for teachers and leaders on their respective campuses to prepare for the first day of school, which is why it was on the administrator calendar but didn't carry over to the teacher calendar. But absolutely, if that's what the board wants to direct tonight, we're happy to gather around the table as an Ed Service team and come up with another proposal to bring as a recommendation to the board to replace that, because that would be the 13th day, correct? There's 13 work days, so we would need to find another work day throughout the year, but perhaps we could find that work day later in a month so that teachers could plan ahead. They still may have already had plans ahead, but at least they have some time to make adjustments.
Could we, I kind of like the, and I don't know how plausible this is or feasible, but the idea of it being a floating day. So for teachers who can work on the 31st and want to come in and were planning on being in their classroom anyways, even though it wasn't going to be a paid working day, they can continue to do that and they'll get paid that day. Excuse me. But for anyone who might not be able to, for whatever reason, they contact their administrator. They have a conversation between the two of them, and then they pick an additional Friday some day throughout the school year that they work in their classroom doing professional development, as Ms. Zimmerman said, but it would be sort of like a lot of companies have floating holidays where you have to work that day, but you just get to take a day someplace else. But that would be a discussion that would need to happen between that teacher and their administrator to make an agreement on what day it would be. But again, I don't know if that's something that would be feasible or not, or if it's a realistic option, but it potentially could work, so that people who want to work and were planning to be there anyways are going to be there on Friday and they can get paid for it. And those who really can't be there would have some way out without it being, a ding on them in some way.
I'm certain that we can find a solution either by picking another day or a floating if that is what the board would like us to do.
All right, would somebody like to make a motion?
I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the work, to approve the calendars as presented for school year 26-27.
Can I ask a question?
And just for, well, I think we have to have a second first.
About your, is a question about your motion?
Yeah, I'm trying to clarify your motion.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I'll clarify.
Does that, okay, so does that include the teach, like they were talking about the teachers, the floating day?
Well, I think that would be up for administration. I think administration, and correct me if I'm wrong, kind of understands the direction that the board is leaning on that Friday. So that would be up to administration to figure out how to work that. But we're just approving the calendar, saying it's a day, that 31st. If the staff want to come in, they'll actually get paid for it versus they just come in and it's not an actual work day.
Will we need to remove that from the blackout day calendar? Just to get your opinion.
Yeah, no, I see it. I just, so I guess, I don't know how much discussion we can have without a second, if I'm just clarifying the motion or,
Withdraw your motion and discuss it.
Yep.
okay, well, right now then I'll withdraw the motion.
Okay.
And then I have question for administration. Can you clarify the difference between the blackout calendar and the certified staff work calendar?
The certified staff work calendar are the days that the staff is working versus the blackout day calendar, which are the days they may not be absent. The only absence would be approved through the blackout form approval process.
So does administration have a problem with I guess the intent of obviously of what the board discussion tonight is July 31st, the problem there. So would there be a problem with removing that as a mandatory day for the 31st from the blackout calendar?
No, that would not be a problem. We can remove it from the calendar and then bring back different options for the board to review.
Or we could just put that in the motion that we remove that from the blackout calendar and approve the rest with the understanding administration understands the intent.
Team PD, yes.
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Yes.
Okay. So I do think one solution could be to just remove it from the blackout calendar. So it's still a work day, but people are able to take it off. But then, my kind of concern is that they're having to take a day that they weren't planning to take. The second option I wonder is I appreciate Miss Schmidt's floating word, floating work day, is could an employee, if we pass the calendar as it is with the 31st as a work day, and only employees who don't want to use that as we're calling it, a floating Friday, that's the only choice, then they contact their administrator, because my guess is the majority of teachers are going to want to work that Friday. And, I want to be sensitive to people. We already told them that it was going to be off. And versus if you do want to work, instead of having all those people contact their administrator, only have people who, want to work a different Friday in replace of the 31st.
Madam President, members of the governing board, the working calendars are uploaded into the system and then payroll pays off of this. So to make different changes to different staff members, that would be a lot of changes in the system and to manage and who's keeping track of what. One recommendation could be if we remove, because the agreement is 13 PD Fridays. What I can tell you is there was September 11th was originally a PD Friday that was removed. There was a PD day removed in November, a PD day removed in February, and March 26th was also removed. So what we could do is propose, and then with giving stakeholders some input, we can bring some of these dates back to the teachers and have them select the day. That way we have more input. The teachers have selected the Friday. We'll bring that back and then we'll upload it, and everybody has the same expectation. Can the board agree to that?
Madam President,
Go ahead.
I'm okay with that for future, but I mean, right now we're at the line. We got to get
Sorry,
something.
just for clarification. So the motion would be to approve removing July 31st. It would not be a PD Friday, with the expectation administration comes back to propose the 13th PD Friday.
Right.
Would be at the next board meeting.
Yep. So the 31st would not be required a working day for anyone, just so we're clear. Yep. So it would be essentially the calendar that we already approved, but an additional PD Friday added some point in the future, and teachers would have plenty of advance notice.
And then I will let you know too that our administrators do know that this was coming before the board. So they, I'm sure plans can be easily changed if that would be what the board would like us to do.
All right.
I would also say that I would be okay if we just removed it as a blackout date too, to remove the, kind of the obstacle if people really need to take the day off, because this Friday has always been a work day. So my guess is that a lot of teachers expect to work. And I think on the other side of the coin, we could end up with teachers who are frustrated, right? That they're not being paid to work, that Friday. And it's just hard because we don't know, we haven't asked them, So I think I would be okay with either option.
Madam President, for me.
Yes, please.
All right. So I'll give it a shot. So a motion to remove July 31st as a PD Friday. What? Sorry, go ahead. Motion to remove July 31. I think that would remove it as a PD Friday. And have the staff add a 13th PD back to the calendar later into the year. and approve all other calendars as is. I think that'll give the intent and what we're trying to get at.
I'll second.
Madam President,
Yes, please go ahead.
our agenda item is approval of the employee work calendars. The motion was to improve all other calendars, which includes a 2024-27 potential calendar. Is that going to be in conflict with the agenda item? We might need to remove those and bring those back.
I can make an amendment.
I think we approve things. I mean, they are attached. And we change motions periodically based on what the recommended action is.
Right, but the law very clearly says that the agenda item has to be clear. You should not rely on attachments to figure out what the agenda item is. I believe we would need to remove the school calendars and do exactly what the agenda item says, which is the approval of employee work calendars. We don't have any obligation to actually publish the attachments. So if the attachments weren't viewable, if somebody was to simply rely on the legal posting in the front of the building, it doesn't have these attachments. It just has the agenda and it says nothing about the school calendar in this. So I think we should be safe and not approve those and just do the employee work calendars.
Okay. To cover all bases, I say that we can just bring those forward at the next meeting. Go ahead, Dr. Avila.
Madam President, what we put forward, administration put forward, is the approval of the employee work calendars, which are attached.
Mhm.
If we remove just the single school district calendar, that's only one of the attachments.
Mhm.
We can bring back the school calendar along with the PD Friday and blackout day calendar. We can bring that back to the next board meeting. So it would
Perfect.
be approval of all except the blackout day calendar, the PD calendar, and the school calendar.
Okay. I think I got that. I think we just need to remove the potential calendar and the rest are fine.
Do I need to make an amendment then? Or somebody else want to go at it?
Madam President,
Yes.
instead of making an amendment and have to go through more motions, I would suggest that Board Member Cinciano withdraw his motion, make a new motion, and then we only have to vote one time.
Perfect.
That sounds like a great plan.
I'll withdraw my motion.
Perfect. Motion withdrawn.
Okay, I'm making a motion.
Okay, thank you.
To remove July 31st as a PD Friday and add a 13th PD back to the calendar at a later time. Approve all other work calendars. For FY what? FY 26-27. School year. Sure, sorry, school year.
Ms. Camerata, would you read that back when you are all set?
President Schmidt and fellow board members, I believe I have the motion to remove July 31st as a PD Friday and have the staff add a 13th PD staff later in the year and approve all other work calendars for the 26-27 school year.
Perfect. All right, we have a motion. I will second again. And I think we are ready for a vote. Mr. Todd.
Aye.
Mr. Kenyon.
Aye.
Mr. Cirincione.
Aye.
Ms. Zimmerman.
Aye.
I'm also an aye. We will show that that passed 5-0. Moving on to agenda item 3.6, the Student Parent Handbook 2026-2027 school year. I'm not sure if anybody is speaking to this or if board members have questions. right off the bat.
Absolutely. So, Madam President, board members, tonight we are bringing forward our 2026 school year, 2027 school year student parent handbook. You'll find both red line and a clean copy in your board packet this evening, and I'm open to any questions.
All right, questions?
Madam President, I have a few.
Go for it.
Just some proposed corrections. First of all, on page 1, the formatting is off. There's no, top margin is off on the first page. So we need to shrink that graphic and create a margin or fix it throughout the rest of the document. On this computer, things look good, but I looked at this at 3 other ones. The board, details have been blurry. I printed a copy earlier. I meant to bring it and it was blurry. I don't know. I don't know what happened there. On my computer now it looks fairly well, but I did ask a couple other people and they thought it was blurry too. Also throughout the document there's some random font differences where it looks like things were cut and pasted from other places, and so that's just sporadic throughout. I would suggest a quick Control A and change the format or change the font to all one. On page 4, all of the 2027 board meeting dates are missing. We only published the 2026. Throughout, as I talked about some margins, particularly on page 8, the margins are off and there's something. Do you see that on Dr. D? Yes, you're making notes, but does it look like that on yours?
Where at?
Just the whole.
Oh, that it doesn't have a top.
No, see this right here?
Oh, you know what? This is what it looks like. So we did notice when you download it as a PDF, it does appear like that, but if you keep it as a Word document, it has the check boxes. I noticed that too, which is why in your packet I included the PDF and the Word.
Right, but if somebody downloads the PDF and doesn't know that's just a formatting issue to the PDF, so it needs to be.
Yes, sir.
They probably need to build that in PDF, but if they get this, they won't be able to see it. Or if they were to just print this, it would still have a problem there. So, and that happens a couple times in the document. That explains that. On page 5, I would propose the district should provide email and phone contact to the administrative assistant, to the superintendent. Or is that the right person to field questions about this document? I don't know, but I feel like we should have that contact there. Also, I think we should, in our handbook, the state is so adamant on public records access. I think we should have a note in here how to request those too if somebody gets that. Page 7, there's just some. I think there's just some title things that are here, but at the top it says the parent-student handbook available at liberty25.org. Then another place, I think it's referring to it as the Liberty Elementary School District Student Rights and Responsibilities Handbook. I think we just need to make sure our titling is correct throughout that entire process, or that whole section there. It's on page 7. Page 10. Let me go to my notes here really quick. Page 10 talks about our Title IX coordinator being the assistant superintendent of HR, but I don't think we have an assistant superintendent of HR anymore. I think that's become a director position. So that would need to change. And then I had a lot of questions on page 14 and 15. I don't think that summarization of this law is exactly accurate. First, I think we have the title. Let me look here. I'm pretty sure we have the title wrong for the law. It's Arizona Healthy Schools Act, and we refer to it as something different in here. And then I just had a question. Parents or students are told to check the nutrition facts panel and ingredients list, even if a food says Smart Snacks approved. I would think that's probably the district's job to be checking that. Also in this, it talks about food items for sale, but the law is not solely limited to sales items or to items that are sold to students during the day. It applies to situations where there are no sales involved. Some of the examples right out of the state's resource handbook for administrators is fundraisers, club and student organizers, booster programs. It says these guidelines apply to all food and beverage sales to students during the school day, including, and it lists some other birthday celebrations, which that necessarily wouldn't be a sale of an item, but classroom birthday celebrations. They say no pizzas or ice cream parties. I think that's personally a little disappointing that you can't have ice cream on your birthday, but we've got to follow what the state says. So I think that just needs to be looked at and probably revised. Schools must adhere to serving foods that do not contain 11 specified food additives in lunches, vending machines, snack bars, and school stores during the regular school day. Even if a food says Smart Snacks approved, you should still check the nutrition facts panel and ingredients list. I think that's the school district's job to be checking. I don't know that we can get our parents to agree to come check everything that we're doing there. So those are the corrections that I have. I think it's a little rough that we have the new Arizona Healthy Act. That's not what it's called. So
Thank you for that feedback. I'll make sure those corrections are made.
Madam President.
Yes, go ahead.
Just a comment, page 47, this is an issue that we've dealt with in the district and has been talking about fairly recently about fingerprinting, fingerprint cards for parents or volunteers. The difference, I do appreciate that in here, we are basically saying if you're a non-custodial volunteer, basically you're not a parent or you have custody of the child. That's the delineation here. So if you're a parent or not, and you're volunteering overnights, you have to have a fingerprint clearance card. However, in here, it doesn't specify that if you're a parent just attending a field trip, right, you don't need a fingerprint clearance card. I just wanted to point that out because that has been something that has been in confusion in the district over the last couple months. And so just making sure that that's pointed out for our staff, for administration, for parents, and anybody looking to volunteer. Is that my understanding?
Yes, sir. Thank you for those comments. You're absolutely right. Custodial parents, if they're volunteering for a day field trip, do not have to be fingerprint cleared. But if custodial parents want to go on an overnight trip, they must be fingerprint cleared. Non-custodial parents at any time, if they want to volunteer in our schools, they have to be fingerprint cleared as well as overnight field trips.
Thank you for the clarification.
Any other questions or comments?
May I ask just one more follow-up question?
Yes, please.
Is there any recommendation, Board Member Kenyon, that I could clear that up more in the explanation that was provided?
No, I think just knowing the difference between, the language here, custodial and non-custodial. I mean, that kind of spells it out. So
Thank you.
Dr. Doozy, I just, again, the formatting, as I'm scrolling through this again, I don't know if this is PDF, but like page 40, there's no margin at the top of the page. And it kind of technology use agreement starts at the end of page 39. Might want to reformat that and drop it down. And that should be what
Absolutely. Thank you. This was a challenge going between a different Word program that the attorney used, a different Word program that I have, and then trying to PDF it. So I do appreciate the board pointing out the formatting because I agree we need to clean that up.
I think your page breaks are just off as I'm looking at this. That's what's happened. Just page break.
Madam President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the student parent handbook for the 26-27 school year with the formatting changes noted.
Okay, thank you.
Second.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion in 2 seconds.
are you gonna give a second to?
We'll give the second to Ms. Zimmerman. All right, we can take a vote. Mr. Todd,
Aye.
Mr. Kenyon,
Aye.
Mr. Cirincione,
Aye.
Ms. Zimmerman.
Aye.
I'm also an aye. We will show that pass 5-0. Moving on to agenda item 3.7, to consider, discuss, amend if desired, and if deemed advisable, to adopt a resolution approving the governing board's argument, in support of the special maintenance and operation budget override election. Do we know if we have, not going to remember his name, the attorney on? Yeah, thank you. In case we have questions for him.
Madam President, governing board members, I just want to let you know that we're notifying Mr. Jim Gill to join us. He does have a link to join us this evening.
Okay, thank you.
Minnie, can you clarify the type of link that we sent Mr. Gill today to log into our meeting?
Yes, I did send him both links, Google Meet, and he can dial in or you can dial him in. I did change the ownership of the meeting.
This is Jim Gill.
Hi, Mr. Gill. This is Sarah Schmidt calling from the Liberty Board meeting. Thank you
Yes,
for
I'm trying to
joining
get
us
in.
this evening.
I've been trying to get in via the Google Meet link, and I'm in the lobby, I guess, just waiting to be brought in.
I'm sorry about that.
I don't know.
Okay, do we have questions from board members specifically about this agenda item in the pro statement? Again,
Madam President,
yes, please.
I don't necessarily have a question, more of a comment. Looking at different option A versus option B, I think option B for me is a lot cleaner and spells out a lot more to the community what the intent that we're going out for the override would be.
Ms. Schmidt.
Yes, please go ahead.
I'm also in agreement. I think option B is much clearer and easier to read. And so
Yeah, I'm in agreement. I prefer that one. I think it looks cleaner. It's easier to read.
Madam President, I have a question.
Yes, please.
It's kind of about it's about this, but we know some of the questions got sent in, and Mr. Gill responded, and his response was kind of confusing. Somebody asked if 3.8 should be before 3.7, and Mr. Gill responded, no, that the majority who voted to call the election in May need to have a chance to vote on the pro statement first. So does that mean?
Ms. Schmidt, I can make a motion if there's no other discussion.
I was asking a question. Oh.
Actually, I think we're muted on the Google Meets.
Are we? We are muted on the Google Meets. Okay. Sorry, Ms. Zimmerman. Mr. Cirincione was actually asking a question, but somebody muted our Google Meet, so I don't think you could hear that. So he was asking for some clarification. Go ahead.
Is there, it's muted again.
Why is it not
That looks like just
Can you hear us?
I can hear you now,
this
but
is-
I couldn't
yeah,
hear
this
you
is-
before.
Okay.
Yeah, I can hear. This is Jim Gill at Gus Rosenfeld. I can hear, but I'm still not on the Google Meet.
Okay.
I'm just on
That's
on the
fine.
phone call.
That's perfect.
That's fine.
Okay, so I'm not sure what happened. Mr. Cirancione was asking a question, but it looked like we froze and our Google Meet muted us. So we'll go back and we'll have the question.
all right. Of course, it just turned off. Okay. So one of the board members had a question. It was asking if 3.8 should be before 3.7, just because the order of things. And Mr. Gill, you responded that no, it shouldn't be, that the majority who voted to call the election in May needs to have a chance to vote on the pro statement first, as this is the next step in the election process. If they can't come to an agreement, then they make the decision to possibly cancel. Is that saying when we originally voted that those of us who voted against it no longer have a vote on the statement?
No, that was not my intention.
Okay.
So my understanding, and again, this is Jim Gill with Gus Rosenfeld, the district's election council. My understanding was you couldn't reach consensus the last time this was brought to the board. So now we're coming back to you tonight, clean slate, new, I guess, two options for the board's pro statement, and every board member has an opportunity to vote yes or no on this revised pro statement. But I would just remind the board, it is in statute 15481 that the board shall adopt a pro statement for inclusion in the voter information pamphlet. So I have not seen a board not agree on a pro statement. So I guess we'll see. I don't want to anticipate the outcome, but yeah, does that make sense? I think everyone gets a vote tonight, and you can express your whether it's option A or B. And I haven't had the opportunity to review either. The only limitation, though, is up to 200 words, and basically you can say whatever you want in that pro statement.
Yes, thank you.
Madam President, I have a question as well.
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Todd.
So we're statutorily required to approve a pro statement, but you're saying if we approve a pro statement, then we don't take on the next agenda item, or we can still take on the next agenda item?
Oh, yeah, no, it's up to you. So 3.8 is a resolution possibly canceling, at least considering canceling the override election. So I'd recommend you come to some agreement on the pro statement under 3.7, and then that doesn't mean you still can't consider 3.8. You can still consider 3.8, and if you approve under 3.8 the option to cancel the election, then the action taken under 3.7 is kind of moot. And then we just let the county know that we're not moving forward on any election activities. And then we just, reconsider it in a future year.
Wouldn't it seem strange if a member was planning on voting no on 3.8 that they would vote anything but no on 3.7?
Yeah, possibly. If the board wants to change the order, that's fine. I don't have a problem if you want to consider 3.8 first, and then if you choose to cancel the election, then we don't even get to the discussion of the pro statement.
Seems like that makes more sense.
Sorry, I'm just catching up. Just for clarification to everyone who's here, that was a question that was posed because it did seem like it made more sense to do 3.8 before 3.7 so that we wouldn't spend time on 3.7 to then not use it anyways. And so I think there was just some maybe confusion because questions were being asked via email and it wasn't clear to everybody in exactly which order things should be done. Excuse me. So that was something that had been asked prior to the meeting tonight for the exact reasons that you mentioned, Mr. Todd.
So if someone would like to make a motion to change the ordering, I think that's appropriate, if that's the will of the board.
I would make the motion to change the ordering of 3.7 and 3.8, reverse them. Lead with 3.8.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. Let's take a vote. Mr. Todd,
Aye.
Mr. Kenyon,
Aye.
Mr. Cirancione,
Aye.
Ms. Zimmerman.
Aye.
I'm also an aye. Will show that passed 5-0 to reorder 3.7 and 3.8. So we will move to 3.8 to consider, discuss, and if deemed appropriate, adopt a resolution canceling the special maintenance and operation budget override election and repeal the resolution adopted May 11th, 2026, ordering and calling a special maintenance and operation budget override election to have been held in and for the district on November 3rd, 2026. And I will open this up for discussion and consideration. Comments from board members.
Madam President, if I may.
Go ahead.
I asked for this to be put on the agenda because when the original vote was taken, there were only 3 board members present for the vote. It was a 2-1 vote. I think if the board is going to ask for an override election, it's pretty important that all 5 board members are a part of that vote, and probably should be pretty close to a unanimous vote. So I asked for that to be brought back up. I think that looks best to the public, and then we have everybody weighing in on it versus just 3. So thank you for getting this on the agenda.
You're welcome. Any other discussion or consideration? I know Mr. Todd and Mr. Kenyon, you were the 2 board members that were not with us on the original evening when we had a fairly lengthy discussion before making the vote, discussing why it maybe should be done this year, why maybe it shouldn't be done this year. I think one of the strongest factors for myself, at least when we were discussing it, was the fact that this is a major election year, and so more people turn out to vote in these years than in the off years. And so the thought was that, you know, we'd have more people showing up to vote other than some of the people who always show up to vote. I'm trying to be very polite and respectful right now. I'm sorry. Some of our older citizens who show up on the off years, where younger people show up on the governor year or the president year. And that was the idea, that we might have more people showing up to vote this year, higher turnout. And that was one of the things that we discussed kind of a lot, going back and forth. But as Mr. Todd said, it was only a 2-1 in that vote. And if anybody was here or watched, there was a lot of back and forth. I don't know that anybody was really 100% that it should and has to be done this year. This year is our sort of our stopgap year. If we get it past this year, then we are not at that end mark. If we wait and do it next year, then if it does not pass, we are going to take a hit to the M&O budget of approximately $10 million. So that was all the discussion that was kind of had. It was much more in depth than that, but I tried to do a quick recap for those who are not with us.
Well, actually, this is a off-year election. This is a midterm election, so you'll be down votes this year versus the presidential election, which will pull more.
Good.
So if you're looking for more voters, it would be the presidential years. You'd want to do that.
I think when we were talking, they're in that discussion. It would be like, but next year won't. It would be like a super off cycle.
Right.
I
Okay.
think that's what we were
Understand
alluding.
Madam President.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, I went back and watched the meeting, and I appreciate the conversation you guys had. just because there's a higher turnout of voters doesn't mean there's necessarily a higher turnout of people willing to vote for this. And so I understand the argument. Personally, I'm not ready to go out for the override. I think our district has some proving to do and getting our kids' proficiencies up and becoming what we ought to be. And we're a great district, but we have a lot of work ahead of us. And I understand. I've had conversations with parents and other taxpayers in the district who have had serious questions about, their taxes and everything that's going up, not just for Liberty, but, all the other taxes that they're having to deal with. And it's quite substantial. And a lot of these people I've talked to are in fixed incomes, and they just really struggling to understand why we would be looking for this. And so just at this point, I'm not ready personally to vote for an override.
Ms. Schmidt.
Yes, please go ahead.
So, I appreciate, Ms. Schmidt, your summarization, because I do think when we had this discussion back in May, nobody felt super strongly one way or the other. I really think the vote could have gone either way that night. And me personally, several reasons I ended up voting for it. And they really fall back onto my experience as a PAC chair, because the last time we passed the override, I was the PAC chair. And typically, going for it on a year where it's not a mail-in ballot is beneficial to the district. And typically districts go out for the renewal of the override in year 4. So this would not be an increase to anybody's taxes. This would just be a continuation. So if we don't go for it this year in year 4, in year 5 next year, it's an off year, which most likely would be a mail-in ballot only. And then it's like one or nothing, like you either get it or you don't. And if you don't get it, then the budget would typically phase down $1 million a year. And then when you go for it again, you have to go for it with the word increase on the ballot. And typically that is harder. And so, our override does pay for a lot of critical things for our students and directly impacts them and our staff. Big thing being specials. And so for me, with that knowledge, is the reason why I voted for it. I certainly know that, the district has been through a lot of difficult times in the last couple years, and the reputation in the community is not what it once was. And so I certainly can understand and respect the idea of waiting and allowing Dr. Doozy this year to, work on changing the culture and the reputation of the district. And I can appreciate that. And ultimately, what swayed my decision is just my knowledge of having run an election essentially for the district previously. And so I just wanted to share that, again, because not everybody was at the meeting where, I kind of how I came to my decision that night.
Thank you. Any other comments or discussion from board members about this? Or if someone is ready to make a motion.
I'll go ahead and make the motion. A motion to adopt a resolution canceling the special maintenance and operation budget override election and repeal the resolution adopted May 11th, 2026, ordering and calling for a special maintenance and operation budget override election to have been held in and for the district on November 3rd, 2026.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. We can take a vote. Mr. Todd,
Aye.
Mr. Kenyon,
Aye.
Mr. Cirincione,
Aye.
Ms. Zimmerman.
Aye, and I'd like to explain my vote.
I will also vote aye. So we will show that that passed 5-0. And you can explain your vote.
The reason that I'm voting aye is because I do think that when we go out for an override, it's really important for the board to be united. And it's clear that we're not at this point. And so I'm hopeful that next year the board will be united to go for the override to support our students.
All right. Excuse me. And with that passed, we do not need to adopt a pro statement. So
Correct.
thank you for being willing to join us this evening and answer our questions. All right.
Absolutely. And I'll be ready next year if you want to move forward then.
Okay. Thank you so much. All right, so moving on to 4.1 board comments on agenda topics and items for future consideration. As I mentioned last week when we met, we are working on getting a lot of the things checked off the list that have been board requests for information or topics that we were sort of on hold for until we had district leadership in place in order to address those. But are there any new topics that anybody would like to request at this time?
Madam President, I have one.
Yes, please go ahead.
I'd like the board to receive some counsel and create a policy, a use policy on AI for district staff and students.
Okay, thank you. Please remember to put it on the spreadsheet.
On there.
All right,
Added.
perfect. Thank you. Anything else from anyone?
Madam President, it's
Yes, go ahead.
not a, this item, agenda item is board comment, so I'm just going to make a comment.
Oh, yes, of course.
Real quick. I hope it was still a little bit bright when we started the meeting, and I know that we had finally gotten some cleaning done on the outside of the building, and I just wanted to apologize for those. We had a lot of people coming here to our building yesterday for the election, and we had a lot of nasty spider webs and just all sorts of stuff on the outside of the building. It looked horrible, but today it looks very good. So I want to thank those who in charge of getting it cleaned up. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Moving on to agenda item 5.1, upcoming board meetings. We have Tuesday, August 11th, a special board meeting and a regular board meeting. Tuesday, August 18th, we have a special board meeting. And Tuesday, September 15th, a special board and regular board meeting. And with that, we can adjourn the meeting at 8:53 p.m.